Hey everybody, we got a lot going on here in my new native tank, so before I get too far ahead of myself, I want to shoot a little bit of an update video here. I've had some exciting stuff happening today, especially. But before that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the other two fish you might see in there that are sort of standing out, which is what appears to be a black molly and a silver molly. And in fact, this is a silver molly. So that's one of the new fish I've got in the tank. And this, which appears to be a black molly, is actually a Dalmatian molly. You can kind of see traces of white around the tips of the fins, but it is definitely a Dalmatian molly and not a black molly. And I put them in there just for a little bit of algae control. I'm not planning on keeping them there in the long run because they're not really native to this area. They are native to North America, but they're not native to around here. North America is a pretty big place, so just because it's native to North America doesn't mean it really belongs in this tank necessarily. So they're in there over the winter. They're helping me keep my hair algae under control. Obviously, I need to wipe the glass down a little more frequently, but if you can see through all of the grime on the glass, all the green that's on that rock, it's not getting long and stringy. It's staying shorn, and it looks very sort of velvety. And that's because those mollies are in there all day long just munching on the algae, and it keeps it cropped short like that. An off-wax grazer would scrape the rock clean, and it would be a nice, clean, shiny rock. The algae eaters simply are like, chewing on the algae. They're grazing it down as close as they can, but they're not scraping the rock. And that way it leaves some of the algae in the tank. And that's fine. I don't mind the algae in the tank. I just don't want it growing in long, stringy strands all over the place. So, as I suspected, I am getting a lot of this algal growth. I did a big water change not long ago, and I wiped the glass down, and I got all this hair algae off the glass, and you can already see how much of it is back. It's kind of cool looking. It reminds me of the magnetic field lines if you put some iron filings on a piece of paper or something, but this is showing you water flow and water current. And you can probably tell the mollies have not been working their magic down at this end of the tank. Maybe there's too much water current right here for them to really get to it or what. I don't know. But the big news I've got for the tank is I kind of made a little bit of a boo-boo as far as it being a native tank. I got a shipment in the mail today. One of my viewers down in South Florida was kind enough to send me some plants. He sent me some Val and a little bit of Rotella and something else that I'm not sure of, but we can talk about that later too. But in addition to sending me some plants, he sent me some fish. And at first I was not thrilled because I really didn't know what I was getting. And I don't want fish in this tank that aren't really native to this area. And of course I had no idea what I was getting. So when the fish showed up today, alive and healthy, I looked at them briefly in the bag and thought that they were sunfish. And I got excited because I want sunfish in this tank. And they were really small. They were about the size of a quarter. And so I went ahead and acclimated them for a little while. Sunfish are really adaptable, so it was no big deal to really get them in the tank, pretty quickly. After they went in the tank, I slowly began to realize that they were not sunfish. I put 3 fish in there, and I don't know what the third one is, but I believe the first 2 I've identified. The viewer that sent me the fish actually sent me some links to fish he thinks they might be. And one is a spotted tilapia, which is actually an invasive species in Florida. It's a West African fish that's been released in the canals down in Florida and pretty much just goes crazy down there. So not only is that not a native species to this area, it's not a native species to North America at all. So that's definitely going to have to come out of the tank at some point. The other fish is a really cool fish, but once again is an invasive species. I believe the other one is a Mayan Cichlid, and from what I've seen on the link he sent me, they are just fantastic looking, but they get about a foot long, and they're not native to North America, and they're certainly not native to this area. So once again, that fish will have to come out at some point, probably in the springtime. They're in there now, so we may as well enjoy them and watch them grow up and, you know, have a little bit of fun with them over the winter. And then come springtime, when I'm able to actually get out and start doing some fishing and stocking this tank up with some actual native fish as I intended to, then maybe I can work on getting them out of there and we can see about what we're going to do with those fish in the springtime. As soon as I find the third one and identify it, I'll let you know what it was. I really wish we could get a little glimpse of one of the fish now. So we're going to try to go in a little closer, maybe look in some of these caves. And we might get a little, there we go, there's a little glimpse. If you look right between those rocks, I believe that is the tilapia. And the other fish looks very similar to this. It's the same sort of body shape. It's got bars down the side, but it has a very, very distinctive eye spot on the tail. And it has a rounded tail, both of which are indicative of the Mayan Cichlid. So I don't really know where it is. These are very small fish, and as I've said before, when I set my tanks up, I really do set them up for the comfort of the animal as much as for my own viewing. So I didn't really intend on having tiny little fish in this tank, so you know, there's plenty of places for tiny little fish to hide. But I have seen glimpses here and there. We just got a little glimpse of what I believe is a tilapia, and right now it's a little hectic in there. The new fish have only been in there for about 2 hours, and you can see that the minnows are still a little skittish and swimming around. Those minnows now come, you know, banging up against the glass when I come in the room waiting for food, but you can see now they're all sort of hiding and, you know, laying low. So it's pretty interesting that 3 little tiny fish like that being put in this tank have disrupted the tank enough to have everybody sort of on edge and skittish. Maybe because the fish that went in there are predatory. I don't know. They're tiny little fish, so even if they were predatory, I couldn't imagine they'd be taken as much of a threat. But the minnows certainly seem on edge since they went in there, so I find that interesting. I also got 1 ghost shrimp was in the bag of fish, so that went into this tank too, and I did see it once. I haven't seen it since, but I did see it once about an hour after I put it in. So there is now also 1 ghost shrimp in this tank, and he was kind enough to send me another bag full of ghost shrimp. So this is my snail tank, and it's just loaded up with snails. See if we can get a focus view here. So it's got snails galore. You can see all these little spots and these little things on the glass. Those are all snail eggs. So I got snails in here breeding like mad, and I have now put some ghost shrimp in here. Well, by nature of ghost shrimp, they're pretty much clear, so they're very, very difficult to spot. But trust me, there's a bunch of ghost shrimp in this tank. So at some point, I will be pulling some ghost shrimp out. And I know this is supposed to be an update on my native tank, but we're going to take a little trip down here, say hello to Butterbean. At some point, I will be putting some ghost shrimp in here with Butterbean, my figure 8 puffer. I put a bunch in there once long ago when I first set the tank up. Not this tank, but the original brackish tank. And he or somebody that was in that tank ate all of the ghost shrimp except for 1. And somehow that 1 ghost shrimp managed to live almost 2 years in this tank. So I'm going to try again. I'm going to put a bunch of ghost shrimp here in my brackish tank, and we'll see what happens as far as whether they get eaten or whether they live or survive or not. So that should be interesting. So make sure you are subscribed. I haven't even talked about any of these tanks. We got lots of stuff going on, but mainly we've got some exciting stuff going on here with the native tank. It's supposed to snow tomorrow, so I'm probably going to get in there and do another water change and wipe the glass down again, so we can start maybe getting a little bit better look at these new fish I got in there. They're not really what I wanted in there. I kind of put them in a hurry, so I was kind of got myself stuck in a little bit of a jam, but it's a pretty cool jam to be stuck in because I got some really neat fish in there. So all in all, I'm really happy, and once again, it was really awesome of my viewer to send me that stuff. So pretty soon you're going to see some plants getting added to this tank, and we're just going to keep moving right along, but we still got a long way to go. So like I said, make sure you're subscribed, and then you won't miss any of the updates I got on this or any of my other tanks. So thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you real soon on the next one.